This game was crazy. All right, this game was crazy. In the first half, the Indiana Fever looked amazing. They were hot, on fire. I could have sworn their jerseys was on fire the way that they were balling. Yo, when I say they were shooting the lights out, let's give it up for Lexi. In that first quarter, it was Lexi's game. Can I get a whole yeah? That's what was going on in that first quarter, fam. And she was just completely...
In a way that no one anticipated, Lexi Hull simply lit up the court. She entered the game and played as if she had nothing to lose because the Indiana Fever were losing players to injuries. The end result is a career night that has Fever supporters giddy and detractors wondering how long this team can continue to persevere in the face of adversity.
Set at 164.5 as Lexi Hull dials up a three.
Let me ask you a question before we begin. Do you believe that Hull's performance was an anomaly or that she is about to become a significant player for Indiana? This one is worth discussing, so leave your thoughts in the comments section. Let's set the scene now. 4 rotation players are already out for the Fever. Due to a groin injury, Caitlin Clark has been out since July 15th. Due to a torn MCL, Sophie Cunningham is out. Sydney Carlson has an ACL tear and is out. Additionally, Ari McDonald closed due to a foot issue. That's already vicious. Then Catastrophe doubled down in the match against Minnesota. During warm-ups, Chloe Beebe experienced pain in her left knee, so she was held out while Odyssey Sims left late in the fourth and never came back. When you add them up, 6 players are out. 6 on a roster that is already having trouble staying balanced. That is disastrous.
But we're right there. So I think we can head into Sunday's game with a little bit of confidence on beating against anybody.
Nevertheless, Lexi Hull took charge and played the game of her life in the midst of all of that chaos. The injuries and the pressure of playing parts she wasn't used to didn't seem to shake her. Rather, she exuded a sense of understanding that this was her time. She made deliberate movements from the opening tip. She appeared to be actively seeking opportunities rather than waiting for them to present themselves. Her initial shots were clean. Her cuts were sharp. That mental change proved to be the difference.
Defense was there, the hustle was there. I liked everything about what was going on in the first quarter. They were just outplaying the Lynx. They looked really good, right? And then we get to that second quarter. The second quarter, I loved how the entire team turned on fire. I mean, they were on fire, scorching, heating it up.
Hull scored 18 points by the half, which is the kind of total you would anticipate from healthy players like Kelsey Mitchell or Caitlin Clark. Her confidence seemed to increase with each shot. Her teammates also benefited from her confidence. She wasn't acting hesitant or afraid. She was making Minnesota defenders scramble as she ran through open lanes and pulled up for threes without hesitation. After each make, the Fever bench exploded. You sensed it. Through the screen, the audience could sense the same enthusiasm that the team had for her performance.
Her career as Boston goes backdoor to Hull, working on Williams.
The problem is that Hull wasn't merely accruing garbage time and empty numbers. She scored during the game as Indiana was still in the thick of Minnesota's possession-for-possession battle. When it mattered, when the game was still in the balance, she missed points. That is the reason her night was so remarkable. It wasn't stat padding, and it wasn't luck. Real pressure hung over her head, and it was real production in real minutes. If we're being completely honest, this is the sort of performance that leaves you wondering why Hull has been neglected so frequently this season. Hull has played a more supporting role as Stephanie White has relied more on Cunningham, Mitchell, and Clark when they are available. Here, however, with the roster reduced to its most basic elements, Paul demonstrated that she is capable of much more than just providing hustle minutes or a spot in the corner. Even against one of the league's deepest teams, she demonstrated her ability to be a focal point. Her post-game remarks summed everything up. In response to a question about her attitude, Hull acknowledged that she was aware that the team needed someone with greater responsibility. Everyone needs to put in a little more effort and be a little more aggressive offensively because we're missing people. That was how I was thinking going in. That player isn't merely wasting time. That is an example of a player embracing the moment. Additionally, Stephanie White saw that she complimented Hull on his aggressiveness, hunting skills, and refusal to wait for the ball to be fed to him. Hull has previously been told that if other people are taking center stage, she may lose her presence. However, she turned that story on its head this evening. By demanding attention herself, she set the tone, making defenders respect her and making room for others. Let's not minimize the figures either. Hull played almost 37 minutes and finished with 23 points on 9 of 16 shooting, including 4 of 7 from 3. It's not only effective. That player manages to deliver at a high rate while carrying a heavy load. Above all, she appeared at ease while doing it. The energy from the headlights did not include any deer. No feeling that the responsibility was too much for her. Rather, she appeared as though she had been anticipating this moment.
Third quarter from Stephanie White coming out once again. I will never back off of this. If you come out flat in the third quarter, if you give up leads in the third quarter, I'm going to question you as a coach. Because what is it are you doing at halftime? It's clear. What happens is the team that's down goes in, they make adjustments at halftime. They come back out. They apply those adjustments. The coach that is winning the game needs to be prepared to be able to make an adjustment to their adjustment, because the adjustment is coming. No, Stephanie White, no, I don't do that. That's above my pay grade.
This is where things start to get annoying, though, because even though Hall's night was outstanding, it wasn't enough to make up for the 6 players who were absent. At that point, the discussion turns from praising her to raising concerns about the Fever in general. This roster has been torn apart by injuries, with hardship players like Shea Petty being thrown into the fire to keep the team afloat. Every game feels like a patch job. In her debut, Petty, to her credit, gave them 10 points on 3 of 4 long-range attempts. Already weakened by long minutes, Indiana's defense collapsed. Boston found herself attempting to guard 2 or 3 players under the rim due to late rotations and lazy closeouts. The Lynx ran up a 32-7 third quarter after smelling blood. That was the pivotal moment. It's annoying because Indiana proved they could compete with a top team like Minnesota in the first half. From 3, they shot lights out. Mitchell was sustaining the attack while Hall was burning down defenders. But as soon as changes were made, that momentum vanished. Minnesota changed their appearance, not in Indiana. This team has been plagued by the same issue throughout the season. Leads at halftime that disappear. Even though Hull had a fantastic career night, the truth is that one player cannot carry the entire team. Boston had to dominate for the Fever, but she failed to do so. Howard was required to defend the paint, but she was unable to do so. White refused to make the necessary changes in the third. Thus, Hull's explosion turned out to be more of a benefit than a turning point.
Let's zoom out a little now.
Although it's a slim margin, Indiana is still in 6th place. They're only half a game ahead of 7th and only a game and a half ahead of 9th, according to Athlon. That is the area of danger. The playoff window gets smaller each time they collapse like this. And if Clark doesn't come back soon, that window might close completely. What does this mean for Lexi Hull, then? This is the best thing that could have happened to her personally in a lot of ways. She demonstrated that she is capable of handling the responsibilities of being more than just a role player, including the minutes and scoring load. She demonstrated that she can flourish when she is the target of defenses. If she is capable of these kinds of nights, the Fever cannot afford to continue underutilizing her, so that will be important not only for the remainder of this season, but also for her role moving forward. And it begs the question, how would you strike a balance going forward if you were Stephanie White? After Clark returns, do you still give Hull more touches? Or do you risk her losing this newly discovered confidence by forcing her back into a supporting role? In the upcoming weeks, the Fever will have to contend with that issue. Kelsey Mitchell, meanwhile, is deserving of her flowers. Since Clark went down, this team has relied on her more than anyone else, and she has responded nearly every time. It's difficult to score 27 points against Minnesota, particularly when the defense is set up to stop you. Even in the face of insurmountable odds, her leadership and Hull's tirade gave Indiana a chance. This game would have ended by halftime if it weren't for those two. Let's not sugarcoat it, though. This defense is terrible. They allowed 95 points, And if McBride hadn't missed a few open shots in the fourth, it might have been worse. White's plans simply don't work for a coach who is purportedly hired on defensive principles. It won't be defense that gets the Fevers into the playoffs. It will be due to Clark's comeback and excellent shooting. This roster feels cursed, which is the difficult part. Cunningham, Coulson, McDonald, and Clark are all out. Sims and Beebe are now also in pain. 6 players, that is. No team makes it through that unscathed. Even their best games, such as Hall's career night, are overshadowed by the barrage of injuries and the third quarter collapses, despite Indiana's valiant efforts. Although Indiana displayed some flashes, playoff races are not won by flashes. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know if you would like to see more breakdowns like this one.